AM 1280 Newstalk KIT, 16 minutes after 8 o'clock. And our candidate forums continue. 14th District, position number 2, Norm Johnson's position. No, position number 1, excuse me. Norm Johnson retiring, and Kathy Coffey in the studio. Kathy's certainly no stranger to local politics. How many years on the council now, Kathy?
10 and a half.
10 and a half, and our mayor. So a lot of folks already know you. That's, I got to think, with most of the votes, so it's like 60-70% of the votes up at this end of the district?
About 75.
75, okay. Well, certainly then having a name recognition in this end of the district, that's a good thing to have. Kathy, our format is basically, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, grade the legislature, give us some of your ideas that you'd like to work on if you get there, that sort of thing. So for those folks who don't know you, who are new to Yakima, we hope Yakima continues to grow and thrive, and there's new folks here. So introduce yourself to the voters of Yakima.
Well, I'm Kathy Coffey. I want to thank you for having me here this morning. I was born and raised here in the Valley. I grew up on a small little farm out in Selah. My parents both worked. I spent my summers working in the fruit industry. Probably every tree, fruit there is, I have worked on one way or another. Enjoyed it. Gave me money for school in those days. The youth were able to work in the fruit industry. I think it is something that it's unfortunate that they can't do it now. My professional career, I grew up in the hospitality industry. My husband and I needed to move for his career down to the Bay Area, so I spent about 10 years with the Red Lion in hotels down there. Ultimately culminated my career with being responsible for 4 states, the director of sales and marketing for their hotels in about 4 states there. My husband and I were going one way, he was going the other way. We desperately needed and wanted to get back to Yakima, so we ultimately did. And then I became the president and CEO of the Yakima Valley Visitor and Convention Bureau and general manager for the convention center. It was a job I loved. I got to promote the city, the valley, and the community that I had grown up in and desperately loved. So we had a great time. As I retired after 19 years in that position, I decided that perhaps I could do some good for the city of Yakima, and I ran for and was successful in securing a position on the city council, where I enjoyed working with you, even though we had our difference of opinions. But we were never disagreeable. We might have disagreed, but not disagreeably. Anyway, after 10 and a half years, here I am, 2 terms as mayor, and I have enjoyed every moment of it.
Well, you certainly have a track record of service to the Yakima Valley. There's no question about that. Nobody can question your heart for Yakima. I think that's pretty evident in the things that you've been involved in. As we assess the legislature, I mean, you're pretty close to Norm, right?
Right.
And even our whole team back in the day, they always packaged themselves up when our current auditor was on board as part of the team, and Curtis King and Norm, and now with Gina, that familiarity, I think, helps our city to be on really good terms and know well our representatives. And so having seen it from one side, should you get there, that's, to the advantage coming back the other way. How do you assess the legislature now that the balance has shifted and this past session? What's your grade that you'd give it?
Well, I would have to give it probably a C-, because we've got too many restrictions. I think there are too many things that we were not able to, as Republicans, to get through. Hopefully that power switch will occur, and we'll be able to get those items through that we need to. The regulations are too onerous for us, and we need to make a change on that.
One of the things that we've heard from others is just to even be left out of conversation. That's got to be extremely frustrating. We got one vote, we don't need you, we're not talking to you. That sort of thing has really got to be a drag.
I agree. I think we are blessed in this valley and in this legislative district that we do have legislators that are able to cross the aisle, have discussions, and are looked at as far as friends of the legislative body in whole.
All right. So what did you give it, a D? What was the grade you gave it?
I said C
plus? A C minus.
C minus.
Okay.
C minus.
See me after class, C minus. All right. In the event that you come through the primary process and ultimately were to get a seat, what are some of the things that that you would like to address? What are the Kathy Coffey issues that you'd like to champion over there?
I think, for me and my previous experience, economic development is a key component for me, but also the public safety. I think you and I have worked on that a lot. It's near and dear to my heart. It's something that we've last year worked with the governor on, and we're successful in getting a proviso, and we'll be putting that forward this year. So those two issues, certainly. The other is taking care of our vulnerable. I have just recently lost my sister to dementia. I think that is a rising concern throughout the state, aging and that type of thing. So I would want to put a lot of my effort in that case.
It's kind of the Norm legacy there too.
The Norm legacy, yes, but that also includes our youth. We've got children that are going to school and don't know what's going to happen at school. We need to put some concentration on our school safety.
That kind of takes us to mental health, or
well, sure it does. I'm just wondering if there's an issue that you think is worthy of new taxes. We often talk about how the state doesn't have a revenue issue, they have a spending issue. So what issue, and the tendency would be, if you thought something was good for the valley but it required some new tax, that you might be in favor of it. But what's worthy of a new tax, or do you think we just need to rearrange things in Olympia to find money?
Well, I think we need to rearrange things. As you may recall, we had additional funding coming in this last year, and yet we had people talking about deficits. What deficits? What do you mean? Well, we didn't have enough money for the budget that we wanted. Oh, no. Dave, you and I went through this on a local level. It wasn't a deficit. It was a deficit of what you wanted to spend. Mm-hmm. We had additional money coming in over the last year. So, that type of thing, that wordplay, it doesn't work with me. And back to your question, this last year, there was $69.3 million put in for mental health, 10 million of it toward opioid care. And I think, we've got to make sure we use the dollars that we have wisely. There's a new program that I think you're probably aware of at the Yakima Valley School in Selah, where you take 16 people in a pod, and they're close to home. They're getting mental health, individual help. Rick Weaver here in Comprehensive Health started this program. It's a prototype, and if it works, it could be throughout the state. As we know, Western has just been decredited, and Eastern is going through an audit. These are important things, and to think that we're doing a prototype that could be carried out throughout the state, I think is to our credit.
Which would wind up, as you say, localizing a lot of, rather than going off to a state institution.
They're by their family, they're by their support system, they're by their church. All of those things are important.
Do you have an opinion about the money we're spending to maintain the health exchange? Isn't that a place where we could find some savings?
I agree with you. My knowledge, I will tell you right now, of the health exchange is not as extensive as it is with the mental health.
Okay.
Kathy, we have asked people about carbon tax because we're getting a chance to vote on that, and that was something that was pushed around a lot at the last legislative session. The governor wants that. What do you think about it as a concept and of the initiative?
I think it's another tax. It's just another tax. And there are so many exemptions with so many of the larger companies that you and I are going to be the ones that are paying it. It's just another tax.
Yeah, it's interesting who gets to opt out, That's one of the things that always frustrates me is wait a minute, didn't we make this designed for you? And you're the one that gets to opt out and the rest of us now are going to...
Exactly.
Well, I'm thinking of an area that you are intimately familiar with, tourism. Yes. And hasn't it been talked about that we don't have a formal program in this state? Some states do. And where would we get that money?
Well, actually, through the last legislative session, they put it back in, but it's a very small amount, and it is being funded by the industry itself. So that's in a unique, it was modeled, I believe, after California. This began being talked about when I was still in the industry. I'm not as aware of it, but I do know that there is a modest amount being put back in, and I think it's being funded by the industry itself.
But we are at a tremendous disadvantage if you listen to John Cooper talk about the actual numbers.
Sure.
What states around us who are known touristy type attraction places, putting a ton of money into reminding the world of that. And we have a bigger fight to fight as a result, and yet we've got all these great attractions, and Washington State can really be second to none if people get know to come here, right?
We're the last. We have the smallest amount of money going toward promotion, and with that, you are where you have your money. I mean, it's not being promoted at all.
Education, McCleary decision. Richard was not a big fan of that. I think none of us were a fan of how it transpired and drug out. Do you think that we're done with the state's role now in terms of adjusted role to education, and that we'll continue to do what we are now doing, or do you see McCleary Part 2.0, or what do you see down the road?
2.0, 2.3.
Yeah.
I've read the McCleary decision, and
wow, you couldn't sleep, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't sleep. You know, I have an exciting life, don't you know? But I also think that the levy swap is where the real problem is going to come in, as you probably are well aware. In 2018, it looks fine. 2019, for most of them, it's going to be where it hits. It's going to be a problem. And for us here in the rural areas of our legislative district, it's going to hit hard. So in talking to senators and legislators, they need to go back in and fix it. It's not done yet. And I think most of them recognize that and are willing to go back in and do the fine-tuning that is necessary.
One of the things that has sort of always been vexation to me is to see a solution put forth and then they kind of go, got her done, move on, and we'll go, wait. And in your case, I think you're spot on that there is more to do. If the intent was to fix it, are we sure it's fixed so that it will work for our tax base and what our property tax levels are, as opposed to other places around the state?
Do you think teachers should be paid the same regardless of where they teach in the state, or do you think there should be a factor for cost of living?
I think it has to be equitable throughout the state, whether that means a cost of living increase. I think that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
Yes, you just can't live the same here as over there if you're making your
I think,
right?
what I'm getting to is, I think if you paid them all similarly, you wouldn't fix the problem, because over there it costs more to live. Over here, not so much. And I do think there has to be a factor for what the standard of living or the cost of living is in your particular area.
Right on. We have had a phone call, multiple emails, and your opponent now bring up the touchy subject of who do you give your political donations to. Do you want to address that, your history and what that's about?
Well, all I can say is I'm a Republican. I've been a Republican all my life. I have made dozens and dozens of donations to Republican legislators, governors, city and county office officials, but I am a Republican and support Republicans. But I have also donated to Jay Ansley, who is an acquaintance of mine from when we both lived in Sela. The contribution to it's been referred to as making a contribution to a local Democratic Party. I bought a ticket to a dinner from a friend of mine as a favor. Didn't go to the dinner, didn't even use it. But I think we need to keep in mind, as you and I were on a nonpartisan position for me for 10 and a half years. We needed to work across the aisle. When we walked into Jay Ensley's office to ask for something, it was easier to do when he knew that I had helped make a contribution to his, particularly since he was an acquaintance.
That's an important distinction. I don't know that many people have started to sift through that. But when you are working for a nonpartisan body like a city council, and you need state help, which all towns seem to, I'm not going to make your case for you, but I am going to suggest that I think that you're in the right direction here. It's I played basketball with Jay. We walk into his office and he says, "How's your jump shot, Dave?" Yeah. Well, that puts me on a different footing than a stranger walking in, right? So that sort of knowledge, whether they're your party of choice when you're not even in the business of talking about party, I think that has to be considered.
It does. And the same thing with Patty Murray. I had a friend that had a table right in front of her at a luncheon. I made the decision this could be good for when I walk into her office in D.C. I bought the ticket. Unfortunately, that is being held against me. I did these things because I was in a nonpartisan position. I thought it would help my position with the city to try to get some leverage. But it's being used against me, and I think, unfortunately, this is the type of thing that people don't like about politicians, is this kind of low level
gotcha
talking.
It's a gotcha thing.
It's a gotcha, and it's kind of taking the low road, and I don't want to be there. I'm surprised that we are there. This is a wonderful community, and we typically don't get down in that. So that's about all I have to say on it.
Fair enough. You were in the elevator with Richard and Dave. Poor you, but you got to go to the 5th floor. Convince us by the time we get there that we should vote for you.
I thank you for this opportunity. I love Yakima. I love the Yakima Valley and this district. I feel that I have the experience, the knowledge, and the background to go to Olympia and start right off and work for the district and bring back some very good work that I can do for them. I've been on the Association of Washington Cities. I've chaired committees. I've worked as far as lobbying. I've testified, and I think I can do a good and great job for this district.
Kathy Coffey, best of luck. You make it through this. The booby prizes, you get to come back and talk to us again closer to the general election. Best of good luck to you. Thank you for your time this morning, and have a toasty, warm politicking weekend.
All
okay?
right. Okay, thank you.
You're tuned to The Source, Newstalk 1280 KIT. We'll be right back.